Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. There is a distinction between religion and Sufism. There is the understanding within Sufism of the unity of Allah, the unity of God. There's also the understanding of the unity of all mankind. And Sufism does away with distinctions, with separations, while the world maintains distinctions, maintains separations, and maintains differences among men, among races, among colors, among languages, among religions. But God is one. Humanity are of one mother and father. All men are related, and all men are brothers and sisters of each other. Yet, the world continues to maintain differences. The unity that is creation seems to be denied by the world, seems to be looked at by the world as a non-reality. Allah sent 124,000 different prophets into the world to explain to man of his unity, to explain to man about the fact that there are no differences among mankind. But what happened was each of these prophets that came, the men that they came to, the women that they came to, formed religions around them, and then distinguished that religion from what other prophets brought, distinguished that way from what others brought. So now we have many, many religions in the world. We have many, many languages in the world. We have many, many colors in the world. We have many, many apparent differences in the world. And the world points all of these differences out. And they say there are distinctions between all these differences, and that somehow we are separated from each other because of these differences. Yet, all of the prophets brought the message from God, from Allah, that there is but one, that we are but one race, that we are but one nationality, that we are but one unity among all mankind. But mankind refuses to believe this teaching, refuses to believe this truth, and has created fiction. And these fictions have become truth. The prophets gave examples about God. They gave examples to try and make people understand the reality of God. But what man did was they used these examples as if they were God. And as we know, there are no examples for God because he is what he is, and there is nothing like unto him. So there's nothing we can compare him to. Yet the comparisons became reality for people, and comparisons became truth. And they made God into the examples of God because they could not comprehend the truth. Man loves the world. Man loves all of the things of the world. Man loves the arts of the world. Man loves the knowledge of the arts of the world. Man is entranced by the glitters of illusion. Man is entranced by all of the lights that shine, and man is entranced by everything that he sees. And man becomes attached to these things. Man is brought up in families, and he becomes attached to the family. Man is brought up in culture, and he's attached to the culture. Man is brought up in religion, and he becomes attached to the religion, and makes distinctions between that which he is attached to and that which he is not attached to. He makes distinctions between that which he knows and that which he does not know. And he gives more importance to that which he knows than he gives to that which he does not know. But in truth, man doesn't know anything. Man has become lost because of his attachments. Man has become lost because of his love for the world. Man has lost truth and has created a fiction that has become his truth. And so now, instead of understanding God as one by all people, we have different kinds of churches, different kinds of temples, we have different scriptures, we have so many differences, and all men attach themselves to all of these differences. And we all have language, and this language has come to describe differences. As opposed to having a language that describes unity, we have a language that describes differences. We have a language that is used to understand illusion. We have a language that is used to promote illusion. We have a language that is used to maintain illusion. So in all of our senses and in all of our speech, we attach ourselves to, we maintain the fiction that illusion is real. And we have fallen in love with this fiction, and we have fallen in love with this illusion, and we call that our life. We call that our existence. We don't know from the truth. We don't know from reality. But there is a wisdom that is beyond this illusion. There is an understanding that is beyond this illusion. But to find this understanding, we have to find someone who knows truth. We have to find someone who's experienced truth. We have to find someone who's lived in truth. And the ones who've experienced truth are different than ordinary man. Ordinary man sees differences. Ordinary man sees illusion. Ordinary man sees things and has names for them. He sees the sun and has a name for that. He sees the moon and has a name for that. He sees the earth and has a name for that. He sees a planet and has a name for that. He sees all of the creatures in this world and has names for them. There are people who spend their lives studying the different creatures and studying the creation and categorizing the creation and giving names to the creation and talking about the different attributes within the creation. But then there's another kind of man, and that other kind of man is very rare. That other kind of man is one in millions. That's the man who's able to see everything as God, who sees God in everything that he looks at, who sees God in everything that he sees, and does not see illusion, does not see that which is temporary, understands that everything that we see, everything that is part of that one unity. And that one unity that is everything is God, is Allah. This is an incredibly difficult thing to comprehend by those who do not see things that way. For those who see the world in all of its differences and who see all of the glitters as separations, who see every glitter as distinct and something else, to say to them that there is a unity amongst everything and everything is God is a very difficult concept to grasp or even think about. Allah was before creation. Allah was before. Allah is after. Allah cannot be limited by language, by time, or by description. Allah is without limitations. Allah is without any kind of explanation that has to do with the normative language that we use. All that we can say is that he is beyond all of these things. Form cannot contain him, and form cannot define him. We cannot know him through form. We cannot know him through example. We cannot know him through differences. We cannot know him through religions. The prophets came and they brought religions. And what happened? These religions became businesses. These religions were meant to come to explain the unity of existence, the unity of Allah, and the unity among men. Yet that unity was somehow misunderstood. That unity was never clarified by man for the rest of man. And man's inclination became arrogance, and his inclination became differences, and his inclination became egocentric, and his inclination became to separate. Man's inclination became to make himself important and to bring himself higher, as opposed to acknowledging his own surrender to that which is, in fact, all that exists. If we truly understood that all that exists is Allah, and that everything we see is from and through Allah, then the world would be such a different place. If everyone understood the message of the prophets and understood the unity of the message that they all brought, and understood the unity within all of existence, then there would be no wars. There would be no differences. There would be no hatred among men. There would be no separations among men. There would be an equality and a peace that would run throughout the world, and there would be a kindness and a love and a understanding among all men of the unity of all men. But men don't seem to want to understand the world this way. They don't want to understand the unity of existence. They don't want to understand the equality of existence. They would rather have a situation where some are higher and some are lower. In some parts of this world, such as India, this has been institutionalized in what they call the caste system. Everyone is given a specific place, and they are raised, brought up, and maintain their life within the confines of the space that is allotted to them by the system. When Gandhi came, he tried to do away with this system, to do away with these false labels, false attributes of different castes. But it was very, very difficult in order to accomplish it. Gandhi once said, "I used to think religion was truth, but then I finally understood that truth is religion." And this is when Gandhi understood that within religion, there were so many false things that religion couldn't be truth. Only truth could be religion. The religions have taken on misconceptions. The religions have taken on fantasies that they've held as truths. The religions have separated themselves from other people. The religions have separated themselves from other groups, and they've tried to make themselves distinct and alone. And of course, this is not reality. Reality is unity, and within unity is reality, and within unity is truth. So to give up our clinging to differences is the first step towards reaching our destination of knowing Allah. The Prophet said, "To know yourself is to know your Lord." The Prophet said, "You must die before your death." The Prophet was telling us that we must begin to understand the unity in existence and the unity that exists within Allah. Allah is one and alone. Allah is everything that we see. Allah is all that is. If we truly understood that, we would also understand that we are part of that Allah. Because if all that we see is Allah, and we are seen, aren't we also of that? When Hallaj said on al-Haq, he proclaimed that he was reality. He proclaimed that he was truth. He had lost all personal identity. He had lost all separation. He had lost all differences. He had totally surrendered from all of his attachments to the world from all of his attachments to differences, from all of his attachments to some sort of unique establishment of himself, and understood that he was part of and represented that which was truth. Religion could not abide by that proclamation. Authorities could not abide by that proclamation, because the ones who are in power can't have man be godlike. The ones who are in power can't secede their power to anyone, including God, including the understanding that that power is universal and is one, and their authority is not the authority that actually rules. It is only Allah's authority that rules, because Allah is all there is. Power is maintained through separation. Power is maintained through distinctions. Power is maintained by holding one higher than another. And if that is taken away, then power is taken away. Then authority is taken away. And authorities don't wish to secede their power. They don't wish to give up their rule. They don't wish to give up their authority. And that's why, for those who truly understand Sufism, Sufism is a danger to their authority. Sufism is a danger to their rule, and it's understood. So Sufism, truth, becomes labeled as apostasy. Truth becomes labeled as shirk. Truth becomes labeled as heresy. So the polytheism of differences labels the truth of unity as heresy. Think about that. Think about that, what that actually means. To protect itself, heresy calls truth heresy. To protect its authority, which is heretical, it calls that which is truth heretical. That is the nature of the world. If man had listened to the words of the prophets and had instituted unity among mankind and had instituted a lack of separation among mankind and had instituted equality among mankind, but real equality, then this world would be different. But hypocrisy is the standard among men. In the United States, the Constitution declares, the Declaration of Independence declares, that all men are created equal, with equal rights towards happiness within existence. Yet at the same time, they wrote these words, slavery was common within all of the states, or at least a good portion of the states. Slavery was a common practice, and it was a practice that wasn't denied. Yet the founding documents say all men are created equal. The world has learned to use words as fiction. The world has learned to say things that have no meaning. The world has learned to talk but not be real. The world has learned how to have ideas and examples that aren't applied in actual life. But our life is our own to do with as is appropriate. Our life is given to us, and it is our purpose to find truth. And because we look to find truth, we look to find men who know the truth. And we are in search and have been in search of truth. And we've been in search of ones who know truth so that we can learn truth from them. And when we find such a man, and God willing, we will all find such a man, that man has the unique ability to give to the ones who find him that which he has. And what is it that he has? He has this ability to see reality. He has this ability to see things how they actually are, as opposed to seeing things through the lens of illusion, as opposed to seeing things through the lens of culture, as opposed to seeing things through the lens of religion, as opposed to seeing things through the lens of differences, as opposed to seeing things in the way the world sees them. We are all influenced by the world, except the ones who don't see things through the lens of the world, but see things only through Allah. We have to become the ones who see things through Allah. And if we become those, then we will die before death. Not a physical death, but a death to the world, a death to illusion, a death to that which is not real, a death to religion, a death to fantasy, a death to glitter, a death to the arts, a death to ignorance, a death to false knowledge, a death to all of the things that separate man. When that death occurs, then reality comes into place. But that reality can't come into place until we are real. Those who don't see reality can never understand reality. And so the wise ones say, when I am here, God is not. When I am not, God is here. That means that when we believe in our own existence, we cloud out Allah. We push out Allah. We push out truth because we are entranced by this fiction that each of us sees as ourself, this fiction that each of us sees as our body being somehow individuated and separate from every other body. Because of this shell that is elemental, we think we are somehow different. Because of this shell of flesh and bones, we think we are somehow different. Because if we look at our faces and see that the faces look different, we believe that we are somehow different. The senses have fooled us through their recognition of things, but the senses recognize falsely. The senses give us a false impression of the world and a false impression of reality. Yet to break through that false impression is very difficult, because we want to believe that false impression, because the mind and desire and the ego all tell us that it's real. And it takes great discipline and great understanding to break through the shell of all of these false impressions and come to the truth. Before creation, Allah was Allah. During creation, Allah is Allah. He's no less and he's no more than he was before creation. And all of creation is within him. And all of creation is of him and through him. And we are of him and through him. And when we understand this, then we can understand truth. To know yourself, you will know your Lord. There's an equal sign there. There's a reality there. There's an understanding there that if we truly knew our truth, we would see our Lord in that truth and know that he alone exists. And this is at the core of understanding the point of Sufism. Sufism acknowledges that there is but one. Sufism reiterates constantly, over and over and over, that there is but one. There is a unity amongst everything that points towards one. And when that's understood, then we see Allah through seeing ourselves. We see Allah through seeing others. We see Allah in everything that we see. But to get to see Allah in everything that we see, we have to give up seeing illusion. We have to give up being attached to illusion. We have to give up loving the world and loving differences. You will become that which you love. And if you love the world, you will become worldly. And worldly is not eternal. Worldly has its end. The only eternity is within Allah. And to see other than Allah separates you from that eternity. So we need to learn to see Allah alone. We need to understand that everything that is brought into our purview that separates us from that understanding, we have to separate from ourselves. And it's only when that separation occurs that truth will enter into us, that wisdom will enter into us, that reality will enter into us, and that we can come to know the truth. So what is it that needs to be given up? Fantasy needs to be given up. Illusion needs to be given up. There is a reality that awaits us, a reality that is truth that awaits each of us when we tire of illusion, when we tire of differences, when we tire of the world, when we tire of the separations, when we begin to understand that the only way towards peace is to become peace. The only way towards truth is to become truth. The only way towards reality is to become reality. The only way towards God is to become God, because only God knows God. Now, by saying that man becomes God doesn't lessen God, it makes man disappear, but it doesn't lessen God. God always was, God always is, God always will be. He will not be diminished in any way or in any form. He cannot be diminished. All of these things need to be understood. And as they are understood, a new consciousness enters into man. And that consciousness is all-encompassing. That consciousness takes in all truth. That consciousness absorbs every religion. That consciousness absorbs everything that man understands and every truth that man understands, and it makes ignorance disappear. And we need to find that consciousness and become part of that consciousness that is beyond illusion, that consciousness that is beyond fantasy, that consciousness that is beyond differences, that consciousness that holds as self-evident that there is an equality, and that equality is one. That consciousness that doesn't use examples but knows truth for truth. That consciousness that enters into reality. And that consciousness is available to us. That consciousness, that wisdom is available to us. But for that to be available to us, we have to give up all the lies that we've been brought up with, all the lies that we've been taught, all the lies that we've swallowed that we can't seem to get out of ourselves. The truth is one. God is one. Religion is one. Mankind is one. God is one. And God is in all that we see. And we need to acknowledge this and know this to be the truth. And when this occurs, our true birth will occur. May that happen for each of us. And may we all enter into that effulgence and that glory that is reality. Ameen, ameen, ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.